In this video, we're talking about Yamaha's brand new CC1 DAW controller that was released at this year's NAMM show, and comparing it against SSL's UF1 DAW controller, and maybe more specifically, how they work inside of Cubase. Hey guys, Steve from Fiddlerlight Studio, and in this video I want to talk a little bit about comparing Yamaha's brand new CC1 DAW controller, transport controller, against SSL's UF1 DAW controller head to head, and more specifically, how they behave inside of Cubase. I was very fortunate this year to spend a great deal of time with the CC1 at this year's NAMM show. They had it on display and they had it hooked up directly to a Cubase session. So I was very fortunate to be able to put it through its paces in a pretty complete manner. I was able to go through an entire production, see how it worked in real time, switch back and forth between different modes. And as a result of that, it allowed me to have a great deal of information when I started comparing other controllers to it, specifically the SSL UF1. It's pretty clear which one we ended up using here in the studio, but I want to talk about why, because I was completely sold on the CC1. When I first walked into the Yamaha booth there at the NAMM show, I was overjoyed at seeing them finally replace, the venerable 121 controller that had been around forever and was just a staple in the industry, certainly when it came to working with Cubase. So when I saw these new features and this really well-built piece of hardware with a great jog wheel, especially combined with like a streamer-oriented Elgato, deck style, control center, I was over the moon, and I was ready to basically pre-order it right there. But I spent a bit more time with it, and by the end of the several hours that I had with it before I actually left Yamaha's booth, I began to formulate a little different opinion about it. And it wasn't that I didn't like it or it didn't work necessarily for all the things I had planned for it. It just became clear that there was going to be some pretty big limitations compared to other things that were out there, like SSL's UF1. Being able to spend some hands-on time with the UF1 and the entire U series, as well as a bunch of other controllers at the NAMM show, was an invaluable experience. And the NAMM show is one of the few places on earth where you can check out a gigantic range of controllers in every price range you can imagine and make a real-world comparison. First, let's talk about the similarities between the CC1 and the SSL UF1. Straight up, this is not meant to be a fair comparison. These devices are separated by about $250 from each other. Our challenge here was to find out which one of the two worked best for our studio needs inside of Cubase, and if there were any other contenders on the market. Both of these controllers have very high quality all metal chassis. They both have 100mm long throw console style faders. They both can do accurate track selection under specific circumstances. They both support the HUI protocol, as well as having their proprietary onboard programming app, which allows for customization like Cubase key commands, but that's where the similarities stop. Next, let's talk about the supported protocols that each one of these controllers support, because that really determines whether or not you're going to be using it just for Cubase or for another DAW as well. Inside of Cubase, Yamaha's own control center software is very comprehensive, allowing a huge amount of flexibility and control, and it is virtually plug and play for Cubase. The 12-button section here at the top is known as a profile. There's multiple pages of these. It offers a huge variety of flexibility and function and can be accessed with these buttons. The Steinberg application instantly maps to all the sliders, buttons, and knobs and works flawlessly. The only additional protocol supported by the CC1 is the HUI protocol. While many Pro Tools users, as well as Logic users, report that it does function inside those DAWs, it functions with a very limited tool set and is extremely difficult to program with the very limited tools that HUI protocol allows. The SSL UF1 supports both Mackie and HUI protocols, as well as its included configuration software, the SSL 360 Link, which vastly expands its capabilities, allows assignments of things like CC MIDI information and Cubase key commands, and works with a much larger variety of DAWs. Let's talk a little bit about features, as this is really where both of the controllers begin to separate themselves. The CC1 combines all the dedicated channel features from Cubase that you would expect. Select solo, mute, track monitor, track arm, automation read and write, as well as cycle control, track select buttons, panning, and the level fader. In addition, it provides a high-quality jog wheel that can focus on any Cubase control and adjust or lock that control. 4 universal rotary knobs for plug-in and DAW-related controls. It combines this with an Elgato-style 12-button Stream Deck with multiple pages of programmability for additional Cubase commands and other applications. The CC1 also includes a single foot switch that can be used to control a variety of DAW-related functions. It's powered by USB-C, but if it draws too much power for your computer, you'll need an additional power supply. The UF1 has all the same transport controls and the same dedicated pan control knob and level fader, with the addition of a dedicated multifunction keypad and channel selector knob, as well as flip and master buttons, which can be used to swap the behavior of the rotary knob and the fader. It has a high-resolution channel screen to display relevant track data and panning, as well as a larger high-resolution screen that displays project, track, and plugin information. In addition, the UF1 includes SSL's $100 meter plugin, which displays a comprehensive set of metering tools that are fully integrated into the UF1 hardware. It has multiple banks of soft buttons and VPOT control over a huge variety of DAW-related controls, and the free 360 Link software can create a fully functional SSL console with SSL channel strips, as well as the ability to map third-party plugins all inside the control software. In addition, the UF1 includes 2 fully programmable foot switch inputs, also an included power supply, and a USB through. This allows you to daisy chain more than one SSL device or treat it as a USB hub for dongles or other USB devices. Now let's talk a little bit about operation, how both of these devices work in the real world. When I got a chance to spend several hours on the CC1, I was impressed. This thing was quick and responsive. Everything really operated and followed track selection the way you would expect, and I was overjoyed and smitten by it. I really was. But the more I began to use it, I started to notice some limitations that I couldn't really get around easily. I loved the Elgato Stream Deck idea. That was an incredible idea, and switching through the different profiles gave me several pages of flexibility that was impressive at first, but the more I used it, the more I started to realize that you couldn't actually program anything inside the profiles. Yamaha's latest update allows you to move that profile to a different button, but not actually to go in and edit the profile itself. And when you do want to create Cubase key commands on your own custom button, it titles them directly over the keyboard, and you can't change the icon. The tiny text makes it almost unusable. The profiles, by and large, are uneditable and pre-programmed by Yamaha. And once you get past a page or two of them, you're really going to want to start to customize these, putting your own Cubase key commands on these keys. The problem is you can't change the icons to indicate what they are, which means you have to remember what they are. My Elgato Stream Deck allows me to put any application and any function on any key with any icon, and I sorely miss and expected that feature with Yamaha's implementation here. In addition, especially for studio use, the CC1 is for all purposes a blind device. There's no kind of metering or readout for the channel levels of any kind. Now, there's a tiny 1-key meter that pops up in one of the profiles, but for all intents and purposes, that's pretty useless. You really can't get a concept of what's going on in your mix or on the channels themselves. It really is meant to be used with a mouse, not in place of a mouse. Now let's talk a bit about the UF1 in use. The UF1 is all about project visualization, from the readout of the channel LED to the high-resolution project and meter screen. It's a joy to work with. It just is. In a production environment that requires you to stay on top of changing project levels, it really does spoil you. The hardwired meter plugin is where the UF1 really starts to earn its price difference. While the UF1 doesn't have a Stream Deck attached to it, it does have multiple banks of lighted and customizable soft keys and VPOTs that allow you to control nearly every aspect of Cubase, including all of the Mackie protocol commands combined with all of the Cubase key commands that you can create on your own. You can customize the most commonly used commands on each page and build them around your individual workflow. If you want to control, for example, the strip EQ, you can control that with the edit window and channel EQ functions. Turn those features on and off, adjust the cues. In this example, we're just using the very limited Mackie protocol commands. By the time you combine these with all of the powerful key commands inside of Cubase, you have a very powerful and very flexible system. And this is just on the first of 3 configurable layers: the DAW control layer, the plugin mixer layer, and then an additional DAW layer, meaning you can jump back and forth between Cubase and Luna, Cubase and Logic. And that entire configuration with all 3 layers can be saved as a preset. So you can load presets up for just tracking, and then presets up for just mixing, and then presets up for just mastering. This allows you to have mixed focus controls when you're in that stage of recording, and then jump to track creation and VST instrument controls when you're at the creation stage of your project. If you need more hands-on and surgical control of your VST3 plugins, you can switch to the plugin mixer layer. When combined with the 360 Link plugin, this allows you to custom map all your VST3 plugins directly to the surface of the UF1. In addition, the plugin mixer layer combined with 360 allows you to pick any track in your project, and the UF1 will dutifully select that track automatically. And if you have some really complex plugins that don't easily map, you can actually use the channel selector knob in focus mode. Simply hover your mouse over any control in the DAW or plugin, and it immediately acts upon that control. But just like the CC1, the UF1 is not perfect either. And due largely to the Mackie control protocol, some of the buttons stay latched and lighted, while others like the metronome and the channel selector here won't stay lit. In this case, it's assigned to monitor. Also, if you use this in plugin mixer mode, which allows you a lot more surgical control and mapping of your own plugins, you lose control of some of the additional transport buttons here on the bottom directly above the transport buttons. And here, for example, we lose control over the flip button, as well as some users not being happy about having to use the 360 Link plugin on every channel just to obtain unlimited track selection, even though the channel selector always works. And the plugin CPU hit is marginal. And even with the Mackie limitations, I found the DAW control layer to be the most useful. So as you can see, the difference between these two isn't anywhere near as clear as you might think it is. And it certainly wasn't for us here in the studio. We agonized over this, quite honestly. And I think it's really going to boil down to this. I think that the CC1 is really going to appeal to a lot of people that straddle that line between streaming, content creation, and that side of the fence versus just pure DAW control, which is really what the UF1 aims to, excel at. Even though they both can do a lot of the same things. I think that's really what's going to divide them in the end, is simply that they're really aimed at 2 different markets, and hopefully, fingers crossed, that Yamaha comes through with some firmware updates and makes that really challenging software a lot easier to use and a lot more programmable, because right now you're really pretty much stuck. So hopefully Yamaha will iron that out. I think they probably will in the future. Who knows how long that'll be, but for us, the clear choice, at least from a working studio point of view, from somebody who really has to use this as a daily tool, the UF1 finally started to pull ahead when we got down into the nitty-gritty of it. Anyway, hey, if this was helpful in any way, please hit the subscription and notification bells. It really does help keep a young channel like this going. Stay safe and be creative. Add something creative to the world, because they could really, really use it. Take care. We'll catch you guys in the next video.